Hey YouTube, it's me, Sean. This is take 3. First time I the door was open, so I couldn't um, do it my video, and second time Michael, my husband, interrupted me. And here he comes again. Hi, Michael. You're not gonna watch the movies with me? Anyways, okay. So I'm gonna do this video real quick before he starts watching these movies without me. So I told you guys I'm going to do a breastfeeding video to give some information about breastfeeding, and because I'm doing a lot of research, YouTubing, Googling. I have the what to expect in the first year, which is which is what I'm going to be using um to tell you guys, or to give you guys tips, share tips that I found out online. Um, the what to expect in the first year it says everything I found online, but I just felt like it was a reputable source that I could like direct you um, to buy and to pick up, or you can go online and put it in yourself. Um, but as if you've been watching my videos, you kind of know that I am going to breastfeed my son at least for the first year, and um, the real challenge for me is that I'm going to be going back to school in January, and hoping that I'm going back to school in January, and I need to keep my supply up because if my son comes in October, we have like, November, just 2 months basically to, um, to establish the whole supply demand, get him latching on correctly, and everything else. But I have to maintain that supply while I'm in 8-hour clinicals, or whatever. So that's the thing. Even though my clinicals are only twice a week, it's still, I have to. I've been reading that you have to pump at least 2 to 3 hours, every 2 to 3 hours, or mimic the schedule that your baby is on when you're apart from him or her. And in a couple weeks before I go back to school, I'll have to start pumping and have somebody else give him a bottle, so he can get used to that, get used to having a bottle, get used to somebody else um, giving it to him. And yeah, because there some babies do, they won't take the bottle from the mom because they know the mom has the real thing. So he probably won't take it from me. He'll probably take it from Mike or whatever. So anyway, I have to figure all that out before I go back to school, as if going back to school won't be stressful enough. So with a newborn. So anyways, I'm gonna share some tips. And I'm not gonna just like read out of this book. I highlighted some things that I just wanted to like bring up. Um, and if you have the what to expect in the first year, it's chapter 3. It's called Breastfeeding Basics. And so for getting started, they give like some tips. And the first one is to get an early start, because early bird nurses tend to catch on sooner, not to mention latch on sooner. So as soon as possible after birth, um, try to breastfeed your baby, because babies show an eagerness or readiness to suck during the first 2 hours after birth, with the sucking reflex most powerful about 30 minutes after delivery. Um, if you don't get around to feeding right after delivery, ask to have the baby brought to you to your room for nursing as soon as possible after all the necessary procedures are done. Um, and even if you do start early, it doesn't necessarily mean that um, you're going to be off to a um, this is gonna mean you're gonna be like super great at it, you and the baby, because you still have to, he still has to learn, and I will still have to like, figure out how this works too, for because you could read about it, but actually putting it to use is like a whole nother story. So um, then it says like beat the system, which I made it known to my the midwife that I wanted to breastfeed. I didn't go into detail, but in this book it says to in advance make your preference known, demand feeding, no bottles, no pacifiers, known to the staff, and or you can explain it to the nurses, which I think I'm going to do a breast not breast a birth plan, and um, with that on there, and I'm gonna make sure Michael knows, and make sure again as I get closer to tell the doctor, um, and try to keep everybody informed. I don't want MJ to have pacifiers. Um, I don't want him to have a bottle. I don't want to have many supplemental feedings. I want to feed on demand, and um, that's it. So also it says ban the bottle, um, which that goes back to the um, nipple confusion. So I'm not gonna go into that or whatever, but it actually says some hospital nurseries still try to quiet a crying baby between breastfeeding sessions with a bottle of sugar water. Even a few sips of sugar water will satisfy tender appetites and early sucking needs, and leaving baby more sleepy than hungry when brought to you later. Um, excuse me. You may also find your baby reluctant to struggle with the breast nipple after a few encounters with an artificial one, which yields results with a lot less effort. And worse still, if your breasts aren't stimulated to produce enough milk, a vicious cycle begins, one that interferes with the establishment of a good demand and supply system. Um, and that's important, like that you make them know. But I don't think nowadays they have most hospitals are moving towards like the baby rooming in with the mom to for the bonding and all that. So I don't think, not that I know of, there's probably some hospitals out there that still have a well baby nursery, and they take the babies to the nursery and keep them at night or whatever. And um but yeah, so it also says like feed on demand, is that's generally best for breastfeeding success. But in the early days, when baby's less hungry than sleepy, chances are there won't be much demand, and you'll have to initiate most of those feedings. And strive for at least 8 to 12 feedings a day, even if the demand isn't up to that level yet. Not only will this keep your baby happy, but it will also increase your milk supply to meet the demands as it grows. So like I'm I remember during clinicals, like some mothers were like, oh my baby slept all night. Your baby shouldn't sleep like 7 hours without going with the feeding. So a lot of, and like I said, in the early days you have to initiate those feedings, because the more the baby's at your breast and suckling, that is stimulating your milk to come in. Um and so you have to wake him up if you have to, because the baby's I believe it's the liver that produces bilirubin, which is how they get jaundice. That it's not breaking it. They have too much bilirubin, and the baby's liver can't. It's too immature to break it all down. So that's how they get jaundice. And so, um, if you're breastfeeding, um, it's helping the baby's digestive system move more, and they're breaking it down not as quick, but with a breastfed baby, they digest things more quickly. So it helps if you can, arouse the baby to feed. Yeah, it's really important in early on for your supply later on, and it's also best for the baby's health. Even though it is possible for babies to get jaundice from breastfeeding, but um, it's possible, but that doesn't mean um, you shouldn't do it at all. So, and it says here, which is what I was just talking about, don't let sleeping babies lie. Some babies, especially in the first few days of life, may be a lot more interested in sleeping than feeding, and may not wake for nourishment often enough. Although babies don't need that much milk or colostrum in the first few days, your breasts need all the stimulation they can get to make sure when your week-old baby does wake up for his feeding, you'll have enough milk to combat his or her hunger. Um, and know the signs of your baby when they are ready to eat. Um, Ideally, you should feed your baby when he or she first shows the signs of hunger or interest in sucking, which might include mouthing the hands, so they put their hands in their mouth, rooting around for the nipple, and you can even get them to root if you just put your finger like on their cheek. They'll start to look for the nipple, or just being particularly alert. Crying is not a feeding cue, so try not to wait until frantic crying, a late sign of hunger, um, begins. But if crying has started, do some rocking, soothing before you start nursing, or offer your finger to suck on until a baby calms down. After all, it's hard enough for an inexperienced sucker to find the nipple when calm, when your baby has worked up to a full-fledged frenzy, and it may be impossible. So you want to feed the baby prior to him getting to that crying stage. So be very alert and watch your baby for those hunger signs. And if you do that, then um, he or she will have a better chance of latching on, and everything can go smoothly. Um, and also practice, 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 which really goes back to your breast being stimulated and not to let your babies just sleep all the time, or going too long without a feeding. It says consider the feedings before your milk comes in as dry runs. Don't be concerned that baby is getting very little in way of nourishment. Your milk supply is tailored to your baby's needs. Right now, those needs are minimum. In fact, the newborn stomach can't tolerate a lot of food, and the tiny quantity of colostrum you're producing is just right. Use those initial feeding sessions to work on your nursing technique rather than to fill baby's belly, and be assured that he or she isn't starving while you're both learning. So that's just basically, that in the beginning, your breasts are producing enough for the baby. It's tailored for the baby's needs, and um, and right now, really in the beginning, you're not so much filling his or her stomach. You're setting up the techniques for nursing, because really the baby's stomach is not that big. Um, so, and with that, give it time. Keep in mind that things may go even more slowly if one or both of you had a difficult time during labor and delivery. Um, or if you had anesthesia, drowsy mothers and sluggish infants may not be up to tackling the art of breastfeeding just yet. So sleep it off, let the baby do the same before getting serious about the task ahead of you. And don't go it alone. Contact a lactation consultant if you're having issues. And most of the time, they'll come to your hospital room, to help you out the first few times. Um, and also keep your cool. If you're stressed or you're tense, that can stop your milk from letting down. So if you have, do what you have to do to relax, listen to music, you know, read a magazine, a book, something to get your body to relax. That way, you and the baby can get the letdown of your milk or colostrum. And let's see, this is a long little chapter here, which I'm going to read through myself. So that way I can be freshed up some more, because the more you research it, the more you know about it, the better off you are sticking through it. And breastfeeding isn't for everybody. So if you do start out wanting to breastfeed and you can't, or if for some reason you don't want to do that anymore, that's fine. Don't feel guilty about that. You tried your best, and if as long as you tried, hey, you feel good about it. Maybe if you have another child, you'll try it again. um but either way, whether it's formula or breast, your baby will still get the nutrients that he or she needs. My mom formula fed me and my three sisters, and we all turned out good. And there's a lot of formula fed babies that turn out great. So don't feel so bad if you can't breastfeed. And I really am speaking to myself when I say that, because I know personally, if I can't for some reason, I will feel really down. So, but I'm trying not to um, focus on that. As long as he's getting what he needs and he's flourishing, that's all that matters. So, um, but I already said how often to feed is like at least 8 to 12 times in a 24-hour period. Sometimes even more if baby demands it, draining at least one breast at each feeding. Um, and then here are some pictures about latching on. Um, in this first picture here, that is where you kind of like put your nipple like on the baby's lip. The baby opens wide in the second picture. Um, and then in the third picture, he's latching on. And notice here how his lips are and his nose are, and the baby is brought to the mom's breast. And his lips are like a little fish. They're like, flanged out. And to break the suction, um, let's see. If your baby has finished suckling but is still holding onto your breast, pulling it out abruptly can cause injury to the nipple. Instead, break the suction first by putting your finger into the corner of the baby's mouth like that and to emit some air and gently pushing your finger between his or her gums until you feel the release. And it's a picture there too. So that's that. Those are some tips. I was trying to talk fast but clearly, and this, I mean, this is a good book to have if you are thinking about breastfeeding. There's some other books out there strictly on breastfeeding. You can contact your La Leche League group um, in your area. Um, you can contact lactation consultants that are at the hospital, or if you have WIC. I don't have WIC, but I heard that they do um, give help to breastfeeding mothers. They have lactation consultants there. Um, so there's help out there if you need help. As far as when I go back to school, I am researching a some pumps to buy, um, and reading reviews and trying to figure out, should I go all the way and buy the expensive one, or should I just get, the moderately expensive one and just see how that works for me. So I don't know, but I will keep you guys updated. I will keep you guys informed as much as I know. I'm not a lactation consultant. I'm just a researching mother to be, um, and I'm just researching for my own for me and my son, and so that way I can ensure that I can still breastfeed him, from the moment he's born until he's a year old. So that's it. That's all I am. And that is my video.